Okay, there we are, episode 6, guys. It's been a week. I'm so sorry for not streaming. It was bad weather at Oceano, and as you know, I only fly in real world weather in Flight Simulator. So yeah, if it's not VFR weather, then we simply cannot fly. Also, I had a very busy week, and I was really looking forward to fly and meet you guys online here on Twitch. But unfortunately, uh, every evening I had something else to do. So I apologize, but here we are, live now on Twitch, back in the cockpit, and I'm so excited. Unfortunately, though, as you can see, the weather is very, very bad. Very IFR, IMC currently at Oceano. And I'm also starting to become much more aware of the fact that Oceano, because it's on the ocean side, is not a really good airport to pick if you would like to fly often, because oftentimes bad weather is coming in from the ocean. So I guess that as soon as we are in good weather, VFR weather, we should hop over and do our first cross-country flight inland to avoid this bad weather away from the coast, so that then we can fly a bit more. So what I'm planning to do, I'm going to fly tomorrow evening too, and I will talk about that in a little bit. But today I would like to dedicate this episode to a new kind of format, a format that perhaps is much more useful in case of bad weather, in case when I do like to stream, but unfortunately we cannot fly because of the bad weather. So I invented Hangar Talk. This is a Hangar Talk episode, meaning I will reflect on my previous flights, go through the notes that I made during my past episodes and when I reviewed my flights, and discuss those with you. Referring you to perhaps new training resources, because although I didn't stream last week, I did study a lot in terms of flight training, and I'm very excited to share this stuff that I learned with you today, and that's what Hangar Talk is about. So unfortunately, we cannot fly, as you can see outside. Man, it's really bad weather. I'm hoping that tomorrow it might be better or improved, but we'll see. And as soon as the weather has improved on Oceano, we take off, depart, and leave Oceano and hop over to airports that are in much more better weather conditions. For example, Palm Springs, or well, those kinds of airports that are much more to the east, because there's a lot better weather on that side than here. So. Again, my apologies for not streaming that often last week, but I'm going to catch up, I promise. There's a lot of stuff to learn and still to improve on in terms of flying, but also in terms of reading. Hey guys, thank you for joining. Yeah, I know. I started my stream saying how I missed you guys. I was really looking forward to fly, but unfortunately, bad weather and a busy schedule. But I'm going to change things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through a lot of stuff that I wrote down on my phone, including the stuff that I learned last week, but also some other stuff that I improved on in terms of my stream. So just share or sit down, get a cup of tea and chat with me. I have a lot more time now to look at the chat. Then tomorrow I'm hoping that the weather is actually improved in Oceano. We can fly. I'm excited. I like to fly. I need to learn stuff. Okay, so first up, I will fly, or actually I will stream from now on each Wednesday on 1830 Zulu time. That's in the evening in the Netherlands. 1830 Zulu time. So that's a regular kind of schedule that I would like to follow. Also, just for the sake of my own flight training, I need to keep up with the pace. Otherwise, I'm not really making progress. besides that, all other days in the week, as soon as I have time to fly, I will. So probably I will fly much more often each week. But each Wednesday, 1830 Zulu time, I will be here on the stream, either in this Hangar talk kind of way, discussing with you the stuff that I learned, or if the weather is good, is VFR, I will fly. But first, guys, I'm so excited to share you this. I mean, this is my 6th episode ever streaming, let alone flying, and already I've received so many generous and kind emails and messages by you guys, of you guys. I mean, it's really encouraging. Even more so, I received as a gift, not as a donation, but well, you can see it as a donation, a book. Someone of you, James, or on Twitter, I mean, I think it's AEGKB James, was so kind to get me this book, his favorite book, one of his favorite study books, on the topic of radio mastery for VFR pilots. I don't know if you guys can see it. He really recommended this book, and he sent it to me as a gift, which is so awesome. Wow, it's so cool. I haven't had the time yet to read it though, but I'm sure going to. It's all about radio communication, and obviously that's a big part of my training. Oh, it's busy, guys. Let me have a look. That seems like a actual human pilot and not a drone, because there are no Cessnas here as drone airplanes. Well, cool. Yeah, but isn't it cool? I mean, so I'm going to study this book page to page, and I will review it as soon as I finished it. And obviously it will be part of my flight training. So again, James, thank you so much. Very kind of you. But the story continues. I've also received another very kind email of the web host of projectflightsim.com, who was really excited by the channel and the whole project, and he offered to promote the channel. So I will hop over to the website just to let you know. Let me see if my panels are actually working. Does it work? No. Let me see, guys. Moment. Windows source. I need my browser. And there we are. Let me see if I can I scroll up? Yeah, you can see here the banner. Isn't that cool? Thank you for following B-Stringer. So actually, there are a lot of you who are as excited by this project as me, and are so kind to offer me this stuff, this promotion exposure to improve on the channel and get more of you guys interested, which is so cool. It's so awesome. Projectflightsim.com, also news I've written a guest blog here to describe the project, which is very cool, I think. Yeah, so that's about the channel. I mean, it's really improving, and we've got about 158 followers. This is my 6th episode. It's amazing. I love it. I love to have you guys on board. It's great. Okay, so that's that. Next up, I've also changed a few things on the stream. I made it a little bit more bright. Last time I flew by night in my previous episode, episode 5, and some of you I saw afterwards were kind of complaining about how dark the cockpit was. Well, actually, in my case on the screen, it was much more bright. So I figured, well, perhaps the stream quality was a little bit too dark, so I made it a little bit more bright. I don't know if you noticed, but well, hopefully now in my future flights when I fly at night, you can see the cockpit much better. Also, I discovered that you can actually turn up the lights of each of the instruments and of the radio panel. And previously I only used some kind of a well, a general kind of lighting there, but I can do much more to make the cockpit more brighter so you guys can follow me along when I fly and, well, look at the instruments and look what I'm doing. So I will improve on that too. Also what I did, 161 followers now. Yeah, cool. Thank you guys for joining. It's awesome. Also, what I did, I would really like my dad to fly with me here in Flight Simulator. We will actually do that also in a shared cockpit setting. So imagine him and me flying, me in the cockpit seat or here in this as pilot in command, and we will fly on PilotEdge, and I can show him how the all stuff is working, how you should fly, how you use PilotEdge, how you chat with the air traffic controllers, which might be very, very cool, but he doesn't have Prepared installed yet. So I thought, as a first step, perhaps it's cool if he just joins us in voice chat, and I can just chat with him. He's also a Flight Simulator pilot. He has his own Boeing 737 cockpit at home, so me and my dad can just chat while we are flying, and perhaps that might be entertaining and informative to you guys too. And we've actually figured out the way to do that. So I'm looking forward to one of the next flights in which I will invite him to come on the stream, and we can chat while we are flying. So that would be cool too. So that's fixed too. I've updated my overlay. Yeah, well, these are just minor things, but I'm just going through the list to let you know. So as you can see, you got at the bottom, you got a donation, the donations. Well, some of you noticed or mentioned that the icon was pretty weird. Some of you didn't have a clue what the icon was all about. It was some kind of a plant or some kind of growing seed, because I don't like to emphasize the money aspect of the donation, but rather, if you donate, you help me expand on the channel, right? And do more of this stuff and learn and and share that with you. So that's why I chose that particular icon, but it should be clear what it was all about. So I changed it into a gift icon, so that you know. What I also did was referring you guys to twitch.tv uncertified pilot, rather than my uncertifiedpilot.com website, my own personal blog, where I blog my flight training progress. So you can follow me on Twitch and get email notifications or through your mobile application of Twitch as soon as I'm flying. So that's a change that I made. Also, I'm happy to announce that someone figured out a fix for EZDOK, that camera application that I'm using, that third-party software that I'm using to get the dynamic head shakes while I'm flying, which I think is really, really cool. But somehow that application messed up the exterior walk-around viewpoints that A2A Simulations, as part of this aircraft, is using. And there's actually a fix now. I mean, the latest EZDOK version is now compatible with A2A by a very, very, very simple fix. You only need to add one particular line of code to some file, and then it's fixed. But while I did it and that worked, I also found out how to change the viewpoints. These are just coordinates. So I thought, well, perhaps I can improve on the viewpoints, because some of those exterior walk-around viewpoints are a bit weird. I'm going to show you, and you can do this too if you have an A2A airplane. Let me see. Here we are. So again, now all these viewpoints work, so we don't have to use that trick that we go backwards through the whole cycle like I did in the previous episode. You can now actually click on the individual viewpoints, which is quite handy. But I changed the viewpoints. These are just coordinates that you can set. So that's what I did. And let me show you. So cockpit. Then the pitot tube. So now, rather than looking at the pitot tube from inside outside to the outside from my own seat, we're now outside of the airplane, and now looking at the pitot tube, which to me seems a much more sensible viewpoint of looking at it, and, well, touching the tube to make sure that it's warm when we turn on the pitot heat. Small change, but I think it's cool and functional. Baggage door, not that interesting. The tail. I made this, I set it like this. So you can see here the tie down and the elevator tab here, trim tab. I think this is because as part of the checks you check all the various views here and need to look inside these angles, look at these hinges and stuff from a particular angle. So I think that this view is much more realistic and functional. Flaps. I think that this is a much more better view to look at the flaps. To look at the hinges here and then the bolts and all the stuff that is going on here. Also, if you look at the pictures here, you can see that the static picture, or well, these pictures are actually dynamic, but it's also viewed from this angle. So I thought, well, virtually here in Flight Simulator, that viewpoint should be quite similar. So that's what I changed. I think that that's interesting too, or functional, useful. This is for the ailerons. Tie down and make like this. The fuel vent. Well, this is just the wheels. Not that special. Just very minor changes here. Static airport. Change it like this. Propeller. So I made it like this. So to check whether the leading edges of the propeller blades are actually smooth and don't have any dents in them, and well. Then the intakes. Oil. Other wing. Well, the fuel vent is behind the door. You can see it right now, but still. We're now under the wing, so we don't hear the rainfall. Well, a bit silly, but again. Stall warning. And back to flaps, and also here on the beneath the wing. So I think that this is an improvement and makes stuff more real. So you can do these changes too yourself in the aircraft.cfg file of A2A. You can just go through each camera definition and you can just change the coordinates, and you can change these viewpoints to your preference. So I did, and I think it's pretty cool. Okay. What did I do next? Walkarounds improved. Instruments, I talked about that. Yeah, the ground school. So I learned a lot of new stuff last week while I didn't stream. I was reading many websites and the AOPA training magazines and stuff, and I learned a lot of stuff that I would like to share with you now. So let me switch to my website because I update my blog with my new notes. So let's switch. Yeah, there we are. So this is my this is one of my pages here at certifiedpilot.com, my website where I share actually everything I learn with you online, also as a personal archive of for myself, just to have a quick access to my notes. So as you can see here, these are the various stages of my flight training. The first season, this is season 1, episode 6, in which I would like to acquire my virtual private pilot license, my VFR rating, as you could say too. And now we're in stage 1, and stage 1 is the ground school, which is actually just some handy notes that I made concerning general topics of flight training that I thought, well, those are smart to remember or were surprising to me while I learned about them, and so I put them into these boxes. And so I thought, well, perhaps it's interesting just to go through these boxes of information, these notes, and tell a bit about the things that I learned, perhaps, and that those might be new to you and well, can help you to improve on your own flights and make stuff more real. So sectional charts. Let me see if there's anything new here that I didn't mention or didn't learn in previous episodes. One thing I learned was that there's actually a Unicom frequency. I thought that there was only CTEF, so at Oceano we have a CTEF frequency, right? It's a frequency where pilots can do their announcements while they are flying. There's no air traffic controller there. But there's also a Unicom frequency. Oh, it's actually the same frequency, a Unicom feature or option, where you can actually talk to some guy or woman, a person who is monitoring the traffic at a particular uncontrolled airport, that you can contact through the same CTEF frequency to get traffic advisories. For example, what is the current traffic pattern, or what is the active runway, or well, in PilotEdge that stuff isn't simulated, Unicom isn't simulated, but still that is interesting. And if you look at the sectional charts, let me see if we can spot one. Well, Oceano here, you can see IFR, red, 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 it's bad weather, marginal VFR here. But let me see if we can check. I see. So if I'm right, I don't know if I'm... I think this is correct, but you can see here this is a private, and this is not a private airport. So New Kioma, Lima 88, has a CTEF frequency 122.9. And you can see a C here. And that C indicates that it also has Unicom. If I think that's correct, but guys, let me know if I'm wrong. So this airport also has a Unicom frequency. Disgraced pilot. Sometimes FBOs or airport administration monitor Unicom, and you can use it to request other services like fuel. Yeah. Right. And thank you for being here, Disgraced pilot. I am so excited to also learn from your videos and streams. You've got good content there. Keep it up. It's very nice. Guys, if you are looking for more content, real-world aviation content, check out Disgraced Pilot's channel because it's good stuff. Yeah, so Unicom, interesting, not simulated on PilotEdge, but interesting. Back to my ground school stuff. So, is there anything else? Well, I was always wondering what TrackIR or RTCC meant. But it's as simple as TrackIR is actually all approach air traffic controllers, and RTTC is a fancy name for sender frequencies. Well, not a big one, but an interesting one. I thought, well, what is RTCC? It sounds too fancy and difficult, but it's well. Understanding sectional charts. Okay, airways. Anything new here? No, I don't think that there's any new notes here, so we'll skip that. If you're interested, visit uncertifiedpilot.com and you can read yourself. Special airspaces, nothing new here, I believe. Nope. Again, if you're interested in airspaces and how those relate to air traffic control, search on YouTube PilotEdge Workshop. I've already mentioned this in one of the previous episodes, but Keith Smith, the CEO of PilotEdge, has uploaded a very long time ago already. Great content on those topics. They explain all the airspaces and go through some scenario-based examples of how you should contact ADC in all kinds of different settings, different airspaces, which is great content. Ryan DC just indicates that the CTEF frequency Unicom also found on AFD. Yeah, I know, Ryan. Thanks. Oh yeah, bad weather avoidance. Yeah, so VFR minimums. I came across this information some time ago, and I was wondering because in one of the first flights that we made, we did a practice flight. We did a practice flight from Oceano. Let me see. Here's Oceano to this area. And I was wondering, because the weather wasn't that great, there was some cloud ceiling here and, well, not really clear skies, so I was hesitant to come close to those clouds, because I know as a private pilot you should remain clear of clouds, or at least 3 miles visibility, 500 feet below the clouds, 1,000 above, and 2,000 feet lateral separation. But Disgraced Pilot mentioned, well, it's this practice airspace here is not, it's just G airspace. It's uncontrolled airspace. So in those settings, you can just remain clear of clouds. You can actually come much closer to clouds if you like to. So while I was rewatching Keith's PilotEdge workshop again, going through all the airspaces, I rediscovered that it's actually not only G airspace that we're seeing here. It's actually G airspace on the bottom from the ground up to 1200 feet AGL, and then from 1200 AGL it becomes echo airspace. And the VFR minimums differ between those airspaces. So at G airspace, below 1200 feet AGL, you can remain clear of clouds, but above G, in E airspace, you have that 3 nautical miles, 500 feet rule. That was really interesting. I thought, okay, so I never knew that this airspace here was actually part of G and E airspace. Now, this magenta fuzzy line here is also echo airspace, but it's different in that then the echo airspace doesn't start from 1200 feet AGL up, but 700 feet AGL up. And this is done mainly, I don't know completely what it's all about, but if I understand it correctly, this is to provide IFR flights with proper separation from VFR airplanes. So in other terms, actually this airspace doesn't require you to make any contact with any tower. It only says that if you fly in this area from 700 feet to 10,000, I believe, you should remain clear of clouds in that 500 feet, 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet measure. Rather than in this this airspace here on the right, or there's some airplane coming by. Rather than in this free airspace, a G airspace, so below that 1200 feet, where you should only remain clear of clouds. So it's actually all about VFR minimums. Actually, that's where this particular echo airspace is telling you. But there's another variation, because you can also have some extended echo airspace. Let me look for one. It's a dashed line, yeah, like this one. So you can see there's the same kind of echo airspace, which means that here we should be well, more clear of clouds. We should be more distant of clouds, so that 500 feet and 1,000 feet and 2,000 feet. But here you can see within that echo airspace there's a dashed echo airspace, and that tells you that that same echo airspace is now from ground level up to. Again, to ensure that IFR pilots remain clear of VFR pilots, or that VFR pilots remain clear of clouds, to ensure that separation. I think that is about right. So, but still, I totally agree with what Keith said in his workshops. He said, well, it's interesting, that stuff, but if you come across in a situation where you need to consider those VFR minimums, chances are the weather is not really safe for you to fly in the first place. Because you never should be that close to clouds, and it should already signal that the weather is perhaps already marginal VFR in some ways, and not safe for you to fly in. And I think he's correct. But still, I'd like to understand how those sectional charts work. And this is actually the main difference. These agro airspaces are actually mainly about VFR minimums, really. They require VFR pilots, private pilots, to remain clear of clouds on different different altitudes. Yeah, that's what they are about. So that's interesting. I think that's really interesting. And again, flying here in Flight Simulator, I would like to honor those rules and to really make full use of Active Sky Next real-world weather conditions here, and really deal with clouds in the same way as real-world pilots would. Yeah, back to my grad school. Yeah, so VFR minimums. Oh yeah, minimum of 1,000 feet ceiling is part of VFR minimum, which is also interesting, I think. Also note that ceiling rule only applies to controlled airspace, not uncontrolled airspace, meaning that there are many untowered airports in G airspace where the 1,000 feet ceiling rule does not apply. Oh yeah. As well, these are really nuances, but I'm really interested in knowing what these VFR minimums are all about. Now let me see. This is the same stuff that I just explained to you, which was new. Oh yeah, you are allowed to fly on top of a cloud ceiling, even overcast, given the 1,000 feet clearance. Yeah, so I thought that you should always ensure visual reference with the surface, with the ground, as a VFR pilot when you're flying above clouds. Well, that's only true for student that's only true for student recreational and sport pilots. So as a private pilot, you can fly over an overcast ceiling of clouds, more than 1,000 feet above that cloud ceiling, which to me is never a good thing. As a VFR pilot, I think that's really dangerous to do, especially if you don't see the end of that overcast kind of cloud area, because then eventually you would need to transition that cloud as that cloud ceiling, cloud base, and then you are in trouble. So, but still, just following the rules here, which is interesting. Marginal VFR. Yeah, okay, some other notes here. If you're interested, have a look at this page and you can read it yourself. Weather charts. Is there something new here? METARs? No, I don't think so. AirMets, we already are incorporating these weather briefings in our flights. Oh, weather forecasts. Let me see. Disgrace pilot. It's very common to fly over an overcast area. A lot of times the area of LA is overcast, but flying toward the west where it's clear. Yeah, okay. So if you're sure that that is the case, yeah, then that can be done. But still, to me, it seems, well, not a safe thing to do. But again, if you are sure that that there's clear skies or that overcast is not there in some other area, then I guess it's well, then it's safe. But often isn't it like that? Yeah. Interesting. Really interesting stuff. Okay. Oh yeah, a squall line. I never knew what a squall line was. Let me go to one of the weather briefing pages that I have here. I don't know if there are any squall lines currently on the map, but let me have a look. Yeah, they are. So we've got that weather briefing. This is the general surface prognostic chart, which isn't that informative, I believe. I mean, based on this chart, you can make your own weather forecast, but the other weather briefing charts that I have here, weather charts, are much more informative because actual aviation weather experts have interpreted that weather information. For example, I really love this one. That's the significant weather outlook, I believe. Yeah, this one. I mean, this is really most of the stuff that you need. I mean, is it IFR weather, marginal VFR weather, is there turbulence, and well, the guys give you a current kind of. I don't know if it's this is not current. This is at this morning. Yeah, this is this morning, and this is at 18 Zulu. This is just 2 hours ago. Yeah, I really love this chart. But still, squall lines. These are the. Or is it a throw? Is this a squall line? I thought that orange line was a squall line, but now I see here a throw, and I'm getting confused here whether that's a squall line. I don't think so, really. But it is bad weather. I should look that up. I'm not sure now. I'm starting to doubt whether this can actually be called a squall line. Let me make a note here. Squall line throw. Where is it? Throw. Okay. Yeah, squall line. This a throw is a locally depressed region of pressure. Okay, and I guess bad weather, right? Something that you should avoid. It's similar to a ridge where it's locally elevated. Yeah, right. I've seen some pictures where you can see the clouds, cloud base. You see a very clear difference there. It really looks almost photoshopped. And there are really strong winds and downdrafts. I thought that was associated with a squall line. But is a squall line the same as a throw, or are there totally different concepts, weather concepts? Let me know. Winds flow, pressure, visualize the flow around. Yeah, so this is just general information about how you can interpret these charts, which is very interesting stuff. I'm really into weather, actually. There's a lot of cool stuff on YouTube about a weather forecast and how you should interpret these weather charts. I really like them. So I need to study those more carefully. A squall line refers to a line of thunderstorms, right? So yeah, bad weather, but it's something different. Okay. Okay, and those are not depicted on these prognostic charts, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Weather. That was weather. VFR altitudes. Only applies to, yeah, I know, 3,000 feet AGL, and then higher you get those VFR altitudes. Oh yeah, so I posted a question a long time ago. If you are on a cruise altitude, you picked one 6,500 feet, and you would like to climb or descend, could you just do that? Because then you cross all different altitudes where other airplanes might fly. Well, I found this particular rule here, where the FAA says, well, also on airways, by the way, if you're flying on airways and you would like to descend or climb, the FAA recommends us to make gentle turns so you can view outside and see whether there are other aircraft beneath you, in front of you, who are also making use of that airway. But I don't know if that's being too careful. I don't know in the real world whether people are really concerned with this, but I don't know. It just crossed my mind like, hey, if you're on an airway, in a Victor airway, could you just, I mean, for example, here, if you get to Oceano here, there's an airway over here. Well, you can fly on that airway, but chances are other people will be flying there too. Well, it's actually an 8 nautical mile bandwidth, so that airway, the airspace that is associated with that airway, if I'm correct, is 4 nautical miles on one side and 4 nautical miles on the other. So there's a big band there where airplanes could fly. In PilotEdge, drone airplanes are generated there that are actually flying those routes or airways. But to me, that seems counterintuitive in some way, because that actually discourages me to fly on those airways, because I know others will fly there too. So in the real world, I would say I'm going to avoid each and every airway, because that is where the most traffic is and the most chances for me to bump into others. So I don't get why airways are invented, other than IFR and IFR cases. And also in PilotEdge, I would rather, if I would like to go to Santa Ynez, I would rather go in a triangle other kind of way, avoiding this airway, so I don't bump into other traffic. But I don't know what the rule, what the idea is. Yeah, I don't know what that is about, really. V4 altitudes, understanding traffic separation. Oh yeah, that's also something that I was inspired. When you're legal to skirt, yeah. So that had to do with the practice area of Flight 2. Disgrace Pilot also mentioned that. So one of the things that I learned was I picked a particular practice area on this side, right guys? At one of the first episodes here, and I was flying here. And I thought, well, there is no airspace here, so this is a great practice area to fly in. And obviously, you should also consider particular arrival and departure routes here from nearby airports, because chances are aircraft are flying outbound and inbound to these airports in this area. Could be unlikely, but still chances are that they do. So that there's no airspace depictions here on the sectional chart is not a guarantee that it's safe there just to fly. I've also seen an upload, a movie by Flight Chops, a great YouTube channel, where the guy was skirting around a Charlie airspace. And although, I mean, we could pick Santa Barbara, I think is the nearest. Santa Barbara. So for us as VFR pilots, I believe it's totally legal to not talk to a soul while we go like this, just going around the edge of the Charlie airspace. We are completely legal to do that, but it's not really safe, and we might even really frustrate the air traffic controllers, because chances are that the airplanes that are departing and arriving at Santa Barbara will fly in this around this area. And so it's much better to contact approach here and say, well, I would like to fly, well, this particular airway, or, well, from here to there. Do you have any advisories for me, or any, well, anything that I can do to ensure that separation with departing or arriving aircraft? Which is a good thing to note. So it not only is not okay just to look at the airspaces and see, well, if I avoid those, I avoid traffic, because airspaces are not strictly only related to traffic density. I mean, I guess that the LA area is much better. A much better example here. So you can see there are a lot of airspaces. But if you look at the Los Angeles fly chart, which is, I think, a great chart, you can see a lot of ways in which airplanes depart and arrive from the LA area that are not necessarily correlated with an airspace, and you should avoid at all times as a VFR pilot. So they've depicted these, indicated these VFR corridors that you should follow if you would like to transition through the LA area, so you ensure that you don't bump into other aircraft while you are transitioning that airspace or that area, which is great. But it also applies to any kind of Charlie airport or any kind of airport out there. It's not just the airspace that you need to avoid. Chances are a lot of airplanes will depart or arrive at those airports, and you should be very careful when you are close to those airspace in either case. Disgrace pilot, let me catch on your chats. Airways are for navigational purposes. You can use them to get yourself around terrain or obstacles. Yeah, but still, let me get back to that example that World VFR, back to Oceania, like that example. I mean, okay, that's true for navigational purposes, but still, if I fly from Oceano to Santa Ynez, I could also just fly to the east for a bit and then catch on that radial of this VOR, and then, I mean, it doesn't have that much of an advantage in airway. It's just a radial. It's just a, well, I don't really get it. They are a good reference for VFR operations. Well, they do make you aware of where VORs are, or vortex VORs are. That's true. Also outlines the importance of getting radar services when available. Yeah, that's true. Fly following and that stuff. I've heard a guy on radio once get grilled by a SoCal approach because he was screwing around VFR on an ILS approach. Right? Yeah. Well, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that at all, and it was because of you when you mentioned that that practice area scenario. I thought, oh my gosh, that's true. It's not just avoiding those airspaces and then think that you are clear of traffic. It's silly. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really interesting idea. Yeah, you normally don't fly Victor Airways for short trips like that. Longer cruises you may prefer to. Yeah, I guess so. Interesting. I like the coaching, Disgrace Pilot. I mean, wow, this is very cool. I think of other questions that I have. I don't think so. Well, anyway, let's continue. So, traffic separation. Understanding PilotEdge. Oh yeah, that's a mistake I also made in that practice flight. So I thought in the practice area, when I did that practice flight, I planned to go to this reservoir, the Twitchell Reservoir, as an area to practice and do standard maneuvers, steep turns, and that kind of stuff. But what I did was, I thought, okay, well, let's just fly east, and when I see this reservoir, I know that I'm there, and then I can start my turns. But the thing was, I couldn't see the reservoir when I turned from Oceana out of the downwind leg. So then you fly blind to the east, and if you don't see the reservoir in between this flight in this leg, then things can become very confusing. So as a trick, I thought, well, it's much more safe not just to pick a visual reference point just randomly somewhere out there and to fly blindly toward that direction, but choose visual reference points that are much more close by and almost guarantee you from spotting them as soon as you take off, and then from one visual reference point to the next, go to your destination using PilotEdge. So, for example, a road is a great visual PilotEdge reference point because you can just follow it along, and I should remember doing that more carefully next time. I'm also considering when we go to another uncontrolled airport tomorrow, if the weather is okay at Oceano, to fly using PilotEdge only. I'm familiar with VORs and that stuff, but I really like to practice that PilotEdge. It's quite difficult, really. Just so to follow some roads or rivers or stuff here that can bring me to my destination. Okay, understanding PilotEdge, yeah, that's the most important thing, I guess. Oh yeah, that's also one. It's also good practice to consider after what flight time you expect to see the visual reference point. Yeah, so using your cruise speed, you can say, well, if I fly from Oceana to this reservoir, I should come across that reservoir within 10 minutes of flying. And if I don't see it within those 10 minutes, I know that well, chances are I've been flying to the wrong direction or whatever, which is also a very good measure just to make sure that you are not messing things up. Very simple strategies or techniques, but I really like them. Okay, understanding flight performance. Yeah, some very simple calculations to have an idea of how much fuel you have on board, and well, this is interesting stuff, and I should also incorporate in my next flight when I do my cross-country flight. Not just flying blindly or whatever to some other airport, but trying to calculate how much gallons of fuel I need to get there. I have never done that, which to me seems quite interesting to do. Also making use of wind corrections and stuff. So I'd like to incorporate that too. That's definitely another advantage of flying Victor Airways, since things like parties are a ton of work. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. I totally understand, but still, that doesn't really justify the airway itself. I mean, I would say the advantage is to use VOR navigation. I mean, that has a clear advantage, but I don't know what the advantages of the airways themselves. Especially because chances are many pilots will fly on those airways, and it only gets congested on those airways. So as a pilot, I would say, well, I'm going to avoid those, which seems counter. Well, I don't know. Seems weird. But I think I get it. Finding a flight plan, nothing new there, I believe. On PilotEdge, yeah, we already did that. Let me see the aircraft. Understanding exterior walk around. Oh yeah, some stuff that you guys also mentioned. The pitot tube cover should be on always. I thought it should only be on in case of let me see. Whoop. In case when it's freezing outside. It seems like kind of like a jacket. So I thought that was the main reason, but obviously it was not. As some of you suggested, because it also prevents bugs and other stuff to go into that tube, which is a very bad thing. Yeah. Leaning. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Leaning, that's a good one. So there's this rule that I found on many YouTube channels, also the good ones, that were saying you should only lean the mixture when you are above 3,000 feet MSL or 5,000 feet MSL or density altitude, not below. And I never got the reason why. I thought, well, okay, except for ground operations when you should lean, right, for max RPM. So I did some research, and actually it's kind of like a rule for dummies. It's not really true. You can lean the mixture on any altitude as long as you don't have a increased power setting above 75% or so, because then you might damage the engine and you overheat, and then you, well, may find yourself in trouble. So and above that 3,000 feet or 5,000 feet, the air is so thin that even if you give full throttle, you cannot reach that full power setting anymore. So you are naturally at 75% or so, and so you won't run the risk of damaging your engine in that way. But actually you can lean your mixture all the time if you are aware that you shouldn't when you use that full power setting, for example, or 75% or higher up power setting. So mainly during takeoff, climb, and that's it. So that's interesting. So I know that during my second flight in this last week, or the week before then, I already had some fouled plugs, and that kind of struck me because I thought, well, I was leaning the mixture on the ground quite aggressively, peak RPM. I didn't know what I was doing wrong. So perhaps I should lean much more during my average flights, rather than only above that 3,000 feet of density altitude, which to me was very interesting. Lean more, but not in that full power setting. Okay. It makes you more predictable to ATC as well, but you're right to an extent. They're pretty downplayed for the most part. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So an airway, yeah. So one advantage of an airway is that ATC knows what they are and you can refer to them. So they can say, well, runway heading, join the Victor, blah, 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 blah. And then, yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, but still, I would avoid them, those airways. Yeah, it's interesting. Cool stuff. I love this. I can do this all night, guys. Hey, there's someone new, but I cannot read your name because blue on my black screen. It is Voxel Fox. Hey man, thank you for joining the channel. Next up, understanding propeller. Yeah. Oh yeah, there's an I didn't really understand the propeller lever in the cockpit. So there are some great movies on YouTube that explain. I thought that the propeller lever was actually directly, mechanically changing the feathering of the propeller. Well, it's not. It's indirectly changing that through a governor, some kind of a mechanical other thing that is in between the propeller and the lever that is moderating that, using oil pressure and all kinds of other stuff. And it was a really interesting video. I think I have archived it in one of my playlists. I have a lot of playlists on my own Uncertified Pilot YouTube channel that you should check out. That is all about the engine and the cylinders and also the propeller and how to use it, which was very interesting. Also, the difference between using the two-bladed propeller and the three-blade propeller. I mean, in PilotEdge, let me switch, guys, to Flight Sim again, and then to the Hangar, which is this button? Yeah. Too many buttons. Ah, we've got an elevator problem. Oh, interesting. We're gonna look. This is cheating, and that's why I didn't include going to the hangar as part of my pre-flight inspection, because I like to do the walk around and then figure that one out myself. And then when we see a problem, we can fix it. But you can change in A2A. You can change the blade, so we can go to a two-bladed propeller and a three-blade one. And I thought, well, the three-blade must be better in all cases, is more powerful, right? Well, it isn't, because if you add another propeller blade, you also increase the drag of the plane. Imagine having 100 propeller blades. I mean, then the air that is pushing against the propellers as you're flying is much greater than the power that you're generating. So actually, in our case, especially because we don't fly that high, the two-bladed propeller would actually be more economical for us to use, but I don't think it looks pretty. So I'm just using the three-bladed propeller, but it's an interesting consideration. And you can actually, A2A beautifully simulates the difference between those propellers, even real time while you're flying. You can change those propellers and see what the difference is, but I'm just using the three-blade propeller. Yeah. Interesting stuff. Do the walk around to see what's wrong. Yeah, you're right. Let's do that. So again, for guys, for you jumping in in this last few minutes. I've also, EZDOK now works with the walkaround. So the latest EZDOK version is 1.18, I believe, and it messed up the A2A Simulations walkaround. But there's a very, very simple fix. If you look on Google on A2A and EZDOK, you will find it. And that fix led me also to, to improve on the viewpoints. Better viewpoints. So for example, at the tail, I've made it to this kind of viewpoint. Now, we saw already in the maintenance hangar that there's an error, right? So, we've got two options here in the A2A world. The error might be in this picture or in that one. Let's have a look. Yeah, I already see it. Can you spot what's wrong? I mean, I wonder if this can actually be a real case where, I mean, well, the solution is, guys, do you know? There's a bolt missing here. It's photoshopped really badly, honestly. You can see how it has been cut away from the picture. That bolt, there should be a bolt here. Disgraced. Is that something real? Can that bolt just be broken off during flight? I mean, it seems really unlikely to me. But still, that's what's wrong. This bolt is missing. Let's check the other hinges and stuff. This looks okay. And this looks okay too. There shouldn't be anything in here. But it's cool that A2A simulates this. So these pictures are actually changing. Yeah, a totally missing bolt. Here, I mean, you can see it here, you can see it here, you can see it here, and I know that the real picture includes a bolt here. So you can see it's completely gone. That is not a realistic. Does it happen in real life? Well, I don't really care because I really like that A2A simulation built this in, but I don't think that there's a really realistic kind of damage. I've never heard of that, but that doesn't preclude that it may happen. Maybe after maintenance or something, yeah. Yeah, perhaps someone forgot to put it in. Okay, well, let's fix it. So, blah, 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 blah. Let's go back to the cockpit. And I would like to see my hangar, and then we just say an elevator hinge needs to be repaired. Fix. And it's gone. Imagine that would happen while we were flying. I mean, wow. You can also see that the yoke is turned, by the way. I mean, it's in complete neutral. That's weird. Hello? Why is it turned? Is the aileron also... Don't think so, but we're gonna check. Whoop. No, not that one. I would like to go to that one. Is there another area here? Aileron? No. That's weird. Don't have a clue. Should look into that. I mean, my yoke was correctly calibrated. Weird. Okay, guys, let's continue. Really slow pace. I'm so sorry. It's bad weather. This is Hangar Talk. This is a format that I'm going to use when it's bad weather, and I would just like to stream. So I'm reflecting on my previous episodes, chat with you guys just to see, well, whatever we're going to talk about. Please feel free to ask questions or follow me along. Tomorrow, every Wednesday at 1830 Zulu time, I will fly, or stream at least. So each and every week on Wednesday I will stream, and depending on the weather I will also fly. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, Oceano is a bad airport to pick because most of the time it is really, really bad weather. So I would like to go to Palm Springs or some other airport much more east to find more weather, better weather, so we can fly more often. So as soon as the weather clears up here at Oceano, I'm hoping by the end of tomorrow we're gonna hop out of here and go to better weather. Got linked to that aircraft. It's an A2A aircraft. So look for Google on A2A Simulations. And actually, you can look for any of the airplanes that those guys are developing, because they all are awesome. But this is the Cessna Skylane. You also have the Cessna Skyhawk, a Cherokee, a Comanche. I mean, those airplanes are beautiful. They're fully featured. They're totally realistic. There's nothing else. So if you're interested in serious flight training and flight simulator, get one of A2A's products. They are amazing. If you're looking into there are some reviews on YouTube at my first episode of this season, my introductory video. I'm also showcasing this airplane, so you can have a look if you're interested. Let's return to the website propeller. So that was the propeller. Interesting stuff, I think. Understanding equipment, that's the suffix stuff, I believe. Yeah. So yeah, based on what kind of equipment you have, what kind of radio equipment you have, ATC can vector you or guide you through airspace if you contact them. And especially for flight following or other kinds of scenarios, you need to provide ATC a suffix code, a letter that is representative of a particular equipment configuration in your airplane. Well, there are actually mostly two, typically, slant alpha and slant golf, I believe. Did I mention it here? Slant golf, yeah, or slant alpha. Now we are slant alpha. We don't have a GPS. Let's center. Yeah, we don't have a GPS, just basic radios, no fancy stuff, which I did deliberately because I would like to fly and use those classic kind of navigation radios rather than using a GPS. I would like to do that PilotEdge and stuff all myself, so I think this is much more challenging and therefore also much more fun. So that's the whole idea. So we are slant alpha, which is a good thing to know, because soon we will talk to, or I will talk to air traffic controllers, and I will need to provide that kind of information. So understanding equipment is a good thing to know. Saying it right. Oh yeah, the communication stuff, which is cool. So Rudder means, it doesn't mean affirmative. It means that you've received the message. Affirmative means yes, and negative means no. And I would also like to add here, which I heard, and I already forgot. Wilco I've already added. Yeah, Wilco means I've received the message, understand it, and will comply. There's another one that I would like to add. What was it? I don't know. If perhaps it comes to mind. I don't know. Okay, so 9, you don't say 9. So here at Oceano, I said Oceano traffic, Skyline Papa Hotel, Tango Mike is departing runway 29. Well, you shouldn't say 9, but say 9er, and not 5, but 5, and not 3, but 3. And actually, if you listen to PilotEdge and listen to air traffic controllers and also some pilots online, they are using 9er, 5, and 3, which is cool. I would like to do that too. I've heard that Roger comes from older phonetic alphabets as short for received. Yeah, that's what it means, Roger. It means received. And I've also read, but it's a long time ago, some real-world mess-ups where Roger was mistaken for affirmative and stuff. Shit hit the fan. I mean, it can be quite confusing. But Roger means received. It doesn't mean that you comply. It just means, okay, I've heard you. Yeah, so that's cool. 9er, 5, and 3. And at untowered airports, don't use full call sign, but use your abbreviated one. Yeah, that's also interesting. I've also had a note there that said that you shouldn't use a call sign at all, but just refer to your color scheme of the aircraft. So in our case, it's yellow and black. So you say yellow, black Skylane taking off from. Because other aircraft don't have any radar on board, like we also have don't have a GPS or some kind of transponder radar kind of stuff to see if there's some kind of a call sign there announced on the radio to identify what aircraft belongs to that code. So it makes much more sense to announce using your color scheme, because that's something that we can see. Well, in PilotEdge, that isn't simulated. PilotEdge is just using the stock aircraft from your own flight simulator, so those schemes won't work. And also, I've read some discussions on forums by real-world pilots that say that it's also not preferable to use that. So one thing that most of them agreed to do was just use your abbreviated one. In my case, that would be Tango India Mike. I'm using the Dutch call sign, Papa Hotel Tango India Mike, so I can just say Tango India Mike. The shorter the better, and it is unique enough for it to practically work in a traffic pattern if other airplanes or aircraft are in the pattern. So that's interesting, I believe. Enter a downwind leg on the 45 degree by saying Oceanic traffic scanning Tango India Mike 5 miles south at 1045, 45 to the left downwind. Yeah. I mean, I would really like to be very concise with my announcements, and some of this stuff, I know exactly what I would like to say, but I cannot say it in a concise and brief and short and, well, professional manner. So this stuff is important for me to know down. Also, what I didn't know, which also makes sense, is you shouldn't do only one announcement on CTEF that you are arriving in a particular uncontrolled airport or untowered airport. You should make two. One 10 miles before, like saying, hey, here I come. And then just about when you enter the traffic pattern, that's 4 miles or 5 miles out of the airport, you say, well, here I go. I'm going to enter downwind or whatever. And that's something that we need to practice too tomorrow if the weather improves and we are allowed to fly. And when we arrive at some other uncontrolled airport for the first time, I would like to incorporate those announcements too. So that's a good thing to know. Saying it right. Okay, ground operations. Oh yeah, there's also some cool stuff here. Crossing the runway, you should do an announcement like we did. Some airports require you to set the transponder code to altitude even when you're on the ground, like John Wayne already knew that. Run-up areas that you should call for. This is not new. Oh yeah, I thought that at Charlie airports, Charlie Ace airspace airports, you should always start from the most basic frequency. So in case of a Charlie airspace airport, a Charlie airport, it would mean clearance or clearance delivery, rather than ground frequency at a Delta airport. So if I would depart from a Charlie airport, let's say John Wayne, I would start with the delivery clearance frequency and say, well, here I am, I would like to do traffic patterns. Well, on the Delta airport, I would say I would check in with ground. But that's not true. You should only check into clearance at a Charlie airport if you would like to have flight following or IFR, or flying IFR. So that's interesting to note. Make sure that the airplane's blast way is not directed towards. Make sure you have enough room to. You can taxi without permission on non-movement uncontrolled airframe field. Yeah, I know. After the run-up, make. Oh yeah, that's also interesting. Which we should also do in PilotEdge. After you do your run-up and you check for traffic. In the previous episode, I only looked to the right or left, doesn't matter. Just next to me, just to see if there was any traffic either on the pattern landing, on arrival, on final approach, or on the runway. But actually, in the time when I would align myself or line up on the runway and do my takeoff, an airplane on base could have already turned to final. And if I'm taking off too slow, that could also mean a go around by the other guy or some, well, potentially dangerous situation. So it's a good thing to make a 30-60 degree taxi turn on the run-up area or somewhere near and have a look all around to see if there are any other aircraft that are on the traffic pattern that are not doing their announcements but are still there. I mean, you're not required as a pilot to do any radio announcements on CTEF, on an uncontrolled airport. It is very strongly recommended that you do, but it's not not mandatory. So I think it's a good procedure to do that if there's enough room to make that turn. And I've already seen some videos on YouTube by some real-world pilots that are making those turns to make sure that the traffic pattern is clear if they're about to when they are about to depart. Yeah, there's another here that I would like to. And it will come on later. You can taxi permission run up. Yeah, do your engine start and run up on your toe brakes. Oh yeah. In the real world, you step on your toe brakes when you do your engine start and when you do your run up, because you never trust the parking brake. That's the idea. Now, again, unfortunately, in Flight Simulator, if you press your toe brakes, the parking brake releases, which I find very, 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 very annoying. In some airplanes I've read it does work like that, but in a Skylane or in a Cessna it doesn't, I believe. So I thought, well, I just use the parking brake. That's what I did in the previous episodes, but rather I would like to do it the other way around. When I do an engine start and I will do when I'm doing a run up, I will release the parking brake and use my toe brakes, because that's more real. So that's it. That's what I'm going to do. Some parking brakes straight up don't work. Yeah, I know, and they are not placarded as in a. Yeah. I know. I've heard some CFIs, flight instructors say that too. Like, don't trust your parking brake. So that's why I think I will incorporate it in my routines. I think that's cool. Understanding traffic patterns. Yeah, so you shouldn't announce each and every leg on your traffic pattern. The FAA says don't mention your crosswind leg. I've seen some other real-world pilots do that on YouTube, and it isn't that harmful. But the idea is on CTEF, some CTEF frequencies are shared among many nearby airports, or some nearby airports. And so you can hear a pilot doing announcements for an airport that is not yours, it's nearby. And so imagine if there are 3 guys doing traffic patterns at one airport and 3 guys at your airport, then you're actually with 6 guys on the same frequency, and then it becomes quite congested on the frequency. And so then it becomes very practical for all of us to be very concise and brief and skip irrelevant announcements or irrelevant redundant ones. Well, and because of that reason, if the FAA says, well, the crosswind leg you can ignore, which I think is a good thing. Also pay close attention to the airport identifiers that pilots use on CTEF. Yeah, so that you don't mistake someone's departure announcement on one airport with yours, which can also be the case in PilotEdge, which is cool. Before turning in the traffic pattern, always look both left and right before turning. Yeah, so one thing I did, and it was also mentioned by some of you on the channel, when I made my turns, my left-hand traffic patterns, I was only, except for final, I was only looking to the left, because I made a left-hand traffic pattern. I was only looking to the left before I turned to make sure that it was clear, and then made a turn. But it's much more safe to not just only look to the left but also to the right, because other traffic might also enter the traffic pattern from downwind or base or from final. So not only look to the left or right. Some of you also said, well, you should make clearing turns before you make a turn, but I've never seen anyone do that in a traffic pattern, so I'm not going to do that. Discuss pilot, I'd use your best judgment on when you should report your position on CTEF. Yeah, I guess so. If there's no one, or yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, it is common sense, but still I like to have some kind of a reference point to see whether it makes sense or not. I can imagine a scenario where you are departing from an uncontrolled airport and you've just heard someone else 5 nautical miles inbound to land to enter the downwind leg. Then it makes sense for the other guy to know that you've just departed and you're now in your crosswind leg. So yeah, perhaps you shouldn't take these rules as that strictly. Yeah, and just use your common sense. which is always a good thing to do. Yeah. Where was I? Before turning frame, always look to the left. Well, yeah, so that's something that I should do. Clearing turns I don't think are that necessary in a traffic pattern. I've never seen anyone do that, so I'm not going to. But really look outside before you make your turns, which is always the key thing. There's also a great YouTube series, I don't know if you know, by Eric Gravel. I think I've also put a few. Hey, follow. Let me go to my own stream. Nikon, thank you for following. I've also put that on my playlist. This is a guy who's recorded his every flight lesson using his GoPro from different angles while he was learning to fly in a Cessna Skyhawk with his CFI, which is great content. Really great content. Each and every flight you see his first solo, his first cross-country flight. It's really great. I learned a lot about that. Thank you for following. FH competitive. So if you're interested in that stuff, go and have a look. Why did I mention that? Because we were talking about. Oh yeah, and and similar videos on YouTube. I've never seen pilots do clearing turns in the traffic pattern. Only before special maneuvers when they do a steep turn or a slow flight in their practice area. Just came here from your YouTube video. Cool. Well, welcome. Again, this is not a really exciting kind of session today. As you can see, or I will flip the switch, as you can see now here in Oceano. It is completely IFR weather here currently in Oceano, and my rule is I'm only flying in real world weather conditions and incorporate weather briefings and all that stuff. So as a student pilot, I guess, it is not safe to fly, so we don't. So when they're in those cases when it's not safe for us to fly, I will use this format, a Hangar talk, when I just chat with you guys, reflect on my previous episodes, see what I've learned, share my notes, and hoping that by tomorrow the weather at Oceano is improved and we can fly again, because I would like to fly. Man, itchy. Really tempting just to change the settings, but I'm not going to do that. I really like that same kind of, I don't know, that culture of, I don't know, using those real world weather conditions and sticking to those. And again, I'm using that weather app that you guys already mentioned in one of the first episodes, Storm, on iOS. Storm app, recommended by Stevio Canivo, also a great YouTube channel by a guy who flies a TPM professionally, commercially. Great guy, great channel, and shares a lot of information about safe flight. And he mentioned that he was using this. Let me see if I can show you this app with great weather information, aviation based. I really like this page. Blah, blah, blah. Hour by hour information about precipitation, cloud coverage, wind speeds. Well, you should check it out. Storm it is called, and it is a great app. So each and every day at work, I'm looking at my Storm app to see, or hoping, that the weather will improve on Oceano so we can fly. Which is really cool. It's a cool habit. And then weather forecasting becomes really relevant, rather than just thinking I will reset my weather tonight and just fly. I'm now really looking forward to find a break in this bad weather. But well, perhaps the bad weather will be there tomorrow too, and we cannot fly either. But again, depending on your wing configuration, you may want to do a shallow turn to lower the wing. You can see on there. Yeah. That's what I meant with a clearing turn. But a clearing turn is a real. It's a 90-degree turn, right? Or a 180 turn, a clearing turn. But yeah, you're right. That's what the guy mentioned in the previous episode. So just making a very shallow turn so you can look underneath the wing just to see if there are any airplanes there, and then you make your turn. Yeah. Are you planning on getting a real flight certificate in the future? Well, I would really like to, but here in the Netherlands, the weather most of the time is like this. And I think you need to fly 12 hours every year, of which 6 are as a pilot in command. Well, and if the weather is that bad, it's very difficult to get those hours, let alone it's very expensive to maintain an aircraft and, well, that kind of stuff. And also, Flight Simulator, in terms of the experience, the flight simulation experience has really improved big time over these last few years. I mean, think about when the Oculus Rift is compatible with Flight Simulator. And that time will come. Frugal just uploaded a movie about the virtual reality, and then it stopped raining. Cool. Using the Oculus Rift for, well, a space sim and DCS world, which looked awesome. Which I think about in a virtual reality, I mean, that's immersive. I mean, in those cases, I think you come really close to the real thing. Obviously, you don't feel the real turning and stuff, but it's far less expensive, and to me, brings the same kind of excitement. And also like to stream and chat with you guys and learn from you. So to me, I guess that Flight Simulator is good enough. But what I do like, what I am planning to do is, once I progressed through my season 1, my virtual private pilot license flight training program, alongside the V ratings by PilotEdge, but also the IFAR ratings. When I've completed that entire program, and streamed with you guys and uploaded to YouTube, I will go and fly with a flight instructor for real, just to see if I can impress the guy. If he sees, and just saying, well, I've only flown a Cessna or an airplane for real for like 30 minutes or so, or an hour or so, and then really impressing him with some flight skills that I've only acquired using Flight Simulator. I mean, that would be cool, right? So this thing that I am planning to do. But I guess if you really want to be a pilot and fly often, the Netherlands is not a good place to learn how to fly. And I should move to Florida or to the States or California. Yeah. So no, I will stick to Flight Sim, I guess. Where is this weather? Yeah, the rain just stopped. We're currently at Oceano, and it's bad stuff. Let me check a weather chart. Switch. What kind of weather can we see? What would be a good one? Is that the SIGMAT? No, I don't think so. This is just, yeah. Now I would like to see, well, not satellite. I would like to see, well, radar. Can we see radar? Yeah, here. Boom. Where's Oceano? Well, here, underneath this twister. Hello, Freerunner. Welcome. Welcome on board. So it's bad weather all around. Let's see if we can already forecast for tomorrow. Let's see if we can do that. So we are low up. I really like this chart. I already mentioned this one. The low-level significant weather charts. Yeah. So what we see now is 6 Zulu 19th of January to 18 Zulu 19. What can we do? We can already see for tomorrow. It's a forecast. So this is for tomorrow, 18 Zulu to 06 Zulu. Yeah, and we will fly. I'm planning to fly on 1830 Zulu tomorrow. I will stream. So this would be the correct chart. And that's a big because at 18 Zulu, an hour or in half an hour before we fly, you can see marginal VFR weather here. So Oceano is about here on this point here. And this red line, I guess it's part of IFR weather. So it's IFR weather on this side and marginal there. So it's bad weather again, guys. And will it improve overnight? Well, the IFR weather will dissipate for a bit, and still we are covered in marginal VFR weather. Freerunner, do you do shared cockpit on VetSim? No, I'm not using VetSim. I'm only flying on PilotEdge because I like PilotEdge far more, especially for VFR. It's more realistic in my view. But I will do shared cockpits. I will do it. I will try to. I'm planning to do one with my dad as soon as he's has installed prepared, and also through voice chat. That would be so cool to fly with him on PilotEdge and to show him the ropes and to chat with him. He's also a flight simulator pilot. Has built his own 737 flight simulator at home. I grew up with him learning about flight simulator. He's not a real world pilot, but that would be very cool. But first, before he has installed prepared, I would like to get him on the stream just by voice chat, and we can chat about flight simulator and that stuff, and you guys can meet him. I think that's cool. But share cockpit, I'm really looking forward to do that. Perhaps also inviting other guys or guest speakers or others on the channel that can teach me how to improve my channel, some kind of remote coaching or so, which would also be very cool. We'll see. It's our channel. We can do whatever we want as long as it revolves around serious flight training, then it's fine by me. But man, tomorrow the weather will probably be bad too, I guess for the whole week. And that's also a reason why it's good to have IFR, an IFR rating, instrument rating, so you can get out of here. Let's return. Understanding traffic patterns, yeah. So standard traffic pattern departure procedure is straight out, 45-degree inward. Oh yeah, I thought outward. So when you depart a traffic pattern, I thought on upwind leg, you will depart the traffic pattern with a 45-degree turn to the right, away from the traffic pattern, outward. But it seems that it is inward. I haven't thought about why that is the case, but apparently it is. So it's a 45-degree inward outbound leg. Or you fly the crosswind leg and then depart, or the downwind leg. Nick, you're absolutely right. It's not a good place to fly. Yeah, I already mentioned that in the beginning of the stream. Oceano is not a good airport to pick, especially near the coast. But PilotEdge recommends this airport as a beginning airport, and I thought, well, let's stick with that one. Oceano, a nice, cute airport, but this is the big disadvantage. I mean, I could just reset the weather, but I don't on this channel. I only fly in real-world conditions. So yeah, we're stuck with this. So again, that's also it actually inspires me to get a hold of weather briefings and weather forecasts, so to have an idea on what time the weather has improved, so we can get out of here. I'm hoping then the weekends provide for a window here for us to get out of here and go eastbound. I think circuit entry suggestions depend on the country as well. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, perhaps that made me confused, but a 45-degree inward, yeah. Okay. Understanding traffic patterns. Okay, let's go on. They like 45-degree angle on the downwind, departing or arriving. Yeah. Does you perhaps no idea what was just a guess, because I know the arrival comes from outside. Yeah. Transitioning airspace. Yeah. So again, that workshop by Keith, the CEO of PilotEdge, great YouTube movie recording where he explains everything about airspace. So if you would like to transition a Bravo airspace, you need explicit clearance by the controller saying clear to, or your assigned instructions to do so. While in a Charlie or Delta airspace, if you're chatting with air traffic controllers, they should only repeat your call sign. And that would mean that you've established radio contact, two-way radio contact, and then you may transition the airport even if the controller hasn't assigned you any heading or altitude. But if he doesn't, like saying aircraft calling standby, then you are not allowed to transition or enter that Charlie or Delta airspace. Same is true for Bravo, but for Bravo, it's not just in a Bravo airspace case, they can repeat or say your call sign, but if they do not explicitly say proceed, then you should just circle in front of the Bravo airspace or do whatever before you are allowed to enter. I mean, man, it's dawning to me. There are some V ratings, I don't know which one, that already requires you to enter the Bravo airspace. To me, that seems very, very daunting at this moment. I barely mastered flying a traffic pattern, which I should practice much more often. But transitioning that airspace, I mean, at that point, flying my airplane must be completely natural. I mean, I cannot spend that much time flying the airplane while at the same time chatting with air traffic controllers. I mean, I don't have that CPU power in my brain to do that, I guess, no working memory to do that, it seems. To transition through an airport's airspace, don't just say you want to transition, but also provide the direction of the transition. Oh yeah, such as Rwanda Tower Skylane 5 miles southwest at 2,500 with Mike. Oh, it starts to rain again. Would like to transition through your airspace to airport. Yeah, so you're not only requesting, I would like to transition, but the guys would like to know how you would like to transition, like to the north or whatever, or to some airport that's on the other side. So just to be clear, I need to incorporate that too. Let me catch on chat. In Britain they do something different, right? I think the FAA recommends 45 degrees because it gives you the highest chance to spotting other aircraft. At least according to their study. Yeah, but to me, if you fly the upwind leg, I would say it's much more safe to avoid that traffic and to go outward, away from, rather than sticking to that crosswind side. No, it is not, because you will actually, in that case, when you go inward, you fly with the traffic flow. Because if an airplane is entering the traffic pattern, it would enter, and if it would enter on the crosswind leg, it would fly also to the left. And so it's much more safe for you to also go inward 45, so you fly along in that direction. If you go to that direction, you might accidentally fly into that entering aircraft. So that would be a reason or an argument that it is more safe to go to 45 degree inward. Okay, fair. That's fair. To the study in the UK, they do an overhead join, totally different from the US. Yeah, but overhead, that's also something that they do here in the US, right? An overhead, midfield overhead crossing. And actually, I've watched a YouTube tutorial last week that was also saying that you should actually do that most of the times at an uncontrolled airport. You should never arrive at an uncontrolled airport as a straight-in landing. Always enter the traffic pattern, or even go overhead and just inspect the airport or see if there's any other air traffic already in the pattern that is not transmitting on the channel, which I would also like to practice when we do our cross-country flight. Look at this weather, guys. I'm hearing an airplane. Oh, getting out of reach of my TrackIR. Where is it? Well, it's not on the runway. I don't know where it is. What weather! But still, I think it's cool. Oh man, it's cozy with you guys. Just chatting. Fly overhead the airfield, then turn left, right, descend to circuit altitude. Yeah, but do you, if you fly overhead, then do you make a left or right turn and then enter a particular leg? Or do you just make a 180 degree turn and enter the inward 45-degree angle to the downwind. Anything other than the 45-degree downwind entry departure circuit is not recommended by the FAA. Okay, it's not prohibited or necessarily unsafe though. Okay. Okay. Well, it is unsafe. You imagine flying overhead the field and then making that turn while other traffic is in the traffic pattern below. You might descend upon or onto other aircraft because you cannot look underneath the belly of the airplane. So that's a danger. So it's much more safe to fly on the same altitude and enter the traffic pattern than going overhead and then flying onto the traffic pattern. So that makes sense. Okay, so rather the 45-degree. It's not prohibited or necessarily unsafe though. Yeah. Okay, cool stuff, guys. Thanks. Thanks. I will add those comments, I guess, in on my page here after this stream. What time is it? Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's also a good one. Charlie Airspace airports have a non-depicted outer area indicated by the pink box saying you should contact the airport within 20 nautical miles. It's not mandatory but highly recommended. Yeah. That also refers to that airspace skirting. Voxel is following. Thank you. Welcome on board. So let's switch to Sky Vector. So yeah, so this is the inner. So this refers to Charlie airspaces. So you see here an inner airspace and you see an outer or secondary airspace. I don't know what it is called. Outer ring, inner ring, secondary ring. I don't know what it is called. Outer. But there's actually another ring here. And that refers to these boxes. There's actually there are sectors that require you to contact particular approach frequencies of that particular airport. So if you're coming from this side, so from the east, like so, you should contact Santa Barbara approach on 125.4. If you're coming from here, it's also 125.4. If you're coming from this direction, it's 120.55. And when you're coming from this direction, no one knows. Yeah, but there's an outer area of 20 nautical miles. So that's, let me see if we can do that. Plan. Yeah. Well, what will be 20? Like so? Plan? Oh no, that's not what I would like to do. Clear again. Sorry guys. Plan. And then like so. Click and then this one. Plan. This 16. Yes, it's even further. Can I move it? Oh, you can just move it. Awesome. Oh, this is okay. Oh, I don't know what I should do here. Well, it's about here. So in this range, this shell, this airspace, invisible airspace over here, it's not really airspace, but from this distance to the airport, the Santa Barbara airport, or any Charlie airspace, you should contact Santa Barbara approach, announcing that you are coming in. Why? Because that Charlie airspace is probably quite congested with a lot of traffic departing or arriving, and so these guys would like to know on time that you are intending to arrive there. So one of the questions I posed on the PilotEdge forum was, okay, that's sensible, but if I'm not planning to land on Santa Barbara, but I am flying through this 20 nautical mile range, should I then contact Santa Barbara approach? And the guy said, well, it's not mandatory to do so, but it might be highly recommended, especially when you're coming close, because then air traffic control approach can guide you or assign you to a particular altitude or heading, so that they don't need to control or guide all the other departing and arriving air traffic on Santa Barbara around you. So it's a good thing to contact them either way, but it's not mandatory to do so. Another way, I guess, to cross this particular area is to fly over the airspace overhead Santa Barbara. Because there are no departure or arrival routes, I guess, on top of Santa Barbara, and that could also be a way to overcome it. So in this case, from service to 4,000 feet, if we fly at 5,000 or whatever, or that will be east, so that's 6,500, then you could cross Santa Barbara in that way. Yeah, interesting. Let me see. No links allowed. Oh, have I set it too strict? I don't know, Flyboy. What kind of message, or perhaps I should change that, because it might be quite useful for you guys to share links. So sorry, I will check that in the next stream so you can post links. Okay, interesting stuff. The outer, what is it called? The outer area. Yeah. Next one, flight following. Yeah, I'm really looking forward. I mean, flight following to me is something like getting IFR guidance while you are flying. It isn't. You're not assured any traffic separation, but the whole ATC kind of thing with flight following really interests me. ATIS, yeah, I already knew that. Oh yeah, so I wondered what you should do when you're on flight following and you're flying on a particular altitude and you're seeing clouds coming your way. Can you just say, would like to divert or deviate to the left or to the right? Well, yes, you can, as long as you inform ATC. So pretty simple, but that's a good thing to know. VFR on top, I thought, well, what's that? Is that related to private pilots? Well, it isn't. It's something that has to do with IFR. So that's something that we will discuss in Season 2, not in Season 1. So I will skip it, but I put it here because I got confused whether VFR on top is something that a private pilot could request, but that's not the case. Resume on navigation does not mean you cut loose on your own. It just means that you are to continue your flight as planned, which would be your V-rating flight or flight following. If it's a VFR flight, maintain the VFR rules while continuing to monitor current frequency. If in doubt, just ask. Yeah, resume on navigation. Yeah. Thank you for following, Elios. Welcome on board. Welcome on board. Understanding lost communications. I already knew this. So this is how PilotEdge handles lost communications, which probably never happens except when Windows crashes, or well, if Windows crashes then everything stops, but perhaps PilotEdge crashes, or well, which is cool then to or your microphone is stuck or doesn't work. This is what you should do. Understanding arrivals. Check in on ATIS about 30 nautical miles before. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is also something interesting. Yeah, so I thought that with about 5 knots, a 5-knot wind, airports, towered airports, would change the active runway. For example, if the wind direction changed, but it isn't. It's actually up to 10 knots of wind. Actually, is still part of wind's calm conditions, and you can imagine flipping a runway. The active runway from one side to the next is quite difficult or challenging, especially for Charlie airport or airports that are quite busy, because then they need to rearrange the entire airspace, divert airplanes on other arrival routes or departure routes. But that's a good thing to know. At one particular point when I did my test flight, I was surprised by the fact that Palm Springs Airport wasn't flipping its runways while there was while the winds were not favorable for those runways. And I thought, well, that's weird. What is happening here? And well, the guys on pilot said, well, these are actually still part of wind's calm conditions. If the winds get really strong, 15 knot wind, then we might consider to flip it. But I'm really looking forward PilotEdge incorporating their own ATIS information on the PilotEdge receiver. So then, as pilots, we know that we have the same information and the same winds that the guys, the air traffic controllers have. But that's future talk. Announce your arrival, blah, blah, TPA, yeah, blah. Charlie airspace area have a non-depicted, we've already... Was that new? I've already done that. Well, it doesn't matter. Flight procedures, last category here. Understanding checklists. You always verify your flows by use of your checklist. Yeah, so I thought that eventually you shouldn't use your checklist at all anymore. You should memorize it completely. Well, that's silly. Although I see some pilots do that on YouTube. And I guess some flows should be memorized, engine start or the takeoff roll or that kind of. You don't have the time to just look at the checklist while you're doing something very complex and demanding. But still, it's a very good practice to always verify your flows by looking at your checklist after you've done the flow, just to make sure you didn't forget any items. I already mentioned that in several episodes before, but it's something that is quite important. Nick, good night. Thank you for being here. Understanding ground operation. Before you do your run-up check, point your airplane into the wind to provide for additional cooling, as the engine will not get enough intake on its own. Also make sure you don't point your blastway into the direction of any taxiway, runway or ramp behind you. Yeah, this is a nice consideration to also incorporate in my routines. Yeah, because when you do your run-up, the engine gets hot pretty quickly. And so any wind that you can direct into the engine is... we don't have a liquid-fueled engine. It's all air-fuel cooled. So that's quite important. Understanding departures. Yeah, well, these are minor things, but they are interesting. Use and keep right rudder after rotation. Yeah, obviously, because in that higher power setting, we need to adjust for that adverse yaw. Yeah, to prevent the airplane from turning. What's also very interesting, have I put that here? No, I've put it to turn, so it will wait. It's another interesting thing that I learned. During crosswind landing, use aileron correction to turn into the wind while using opposite rudder adjustment. Yeah, so crosswind landings, that's also something that I need to practice, which will happen soon. That will be challenging too. My landings up to now were not that bad, fortunately, but I guess crosswind landings might be much more challenging. So I'm looking forward to do that. Rejected takeoff has several stages. Yeah, I've already mentioned those on the checklist. For guys that are new, I made my own A2A Cessna Skyline student checklist. So it has many more items that I've collected through looking at all kinds of flight training resources, actual flight training, but also on YouTube, websites, and this is version 2.1. Free download on uncertifiedpilot.com. Have a look, and you can follow me along when I do my checks. And I've also mentioned those rejected takeoff criteria, which is also good to go through before I do my takeoff. At 300 feet HGL, you may retract your flaps. At 500 feet, you fly the assigned running. So if ATC at a Delta airspace or a Charlie or Bravo or whatever, you get an assigned instruction, or you get an instruction to fly a particular heading or to a particular altitude, you carry out that assigned heading or altitude after 500 feet. So first you just fly runway heading and then you execute that. But you could think, no, I didn't know that. And 300 feet below the traffic pattern altitude, you start your crosswind turn. Yeah, I knew that. Okay, understanding en route flying. Keep that nose up before you start your turns to prevent losing altitude. Yeah, so in the previous runs, the previous traffic patterns, I lost a lot of altitude because I didn't pitch up before or simultaneously when I turned. So I first made the turn, then the nose went down, then I thought, oh my god, I'm descending, and then pitched up. So yeah, that's something that I should be more aware of. Make clearing turns before you do any special maneuvers. Yeah, you need oxygen if you fly above 12,500 feet pressure altitude, longer than 30 minutes. Above 14,000 pressure altitude, you must use oxygen. Yeah, well, that's not simulated in A2A. But that's I thought it was interesting to know how that works. Understanding landings. To carry out smooth and gentle touchdown, lock your sight onto the far end of the runway. instead of your intended point of touchdown. Yeah, that really helped. So in the first landings that I did, I was focusing on where to touch down, and that makes things really confusing. And well, I touched down quite hard. While if I focused on the far end of the runway when I'm landing, then I have a much better sense of how high up I am in relation to the runway, and my touchdowns were very nice. So that was a great tip. Also might be useful for you guys. When flaring before touchdown, view your stall warning sound as the sound of of winners. Be sure though to be clear. Yeah. So what I didn't know is that before touchdown, it's actually a good thing that you hear the stall warning sound, the stall horn. So actually, if you hear that, that means that you are a winner. That you done it properly. You shouldn't do that or hear the stall warning when you're still 50 feet up above the runway, because then you just plunge into the runway. That's not a good thing. But just before you touch down, that stall warning sound is a good thing, which is a good reference point, I guess. Yeah, understanding turns. So that was also interesting, and I guess I mentioned it in one of the previous episodes, but I always thought that you should, in a turn, always use rudder adjustments. So if you make a left turn and you are in the left turn, you should use left rudder. But that's not the case at all. You should only... Oh, I just released my parking brake because I pressed the toe brake. You should... switch to the cockpit. Only use the rudder while turning. And it makes sense, because imagine wings and the ailerons. Can you see my hands? Let me have a view of my own stream here so I can see whether you can see my hands. But if you see, I have an airplane here, a model. Yeah, a Skyhawk. Isn't it nice, guys? So the idea is, let me see it like, so we're flying this direction. So ailerons, right? On this side. So if we make a right turn, then this aileron goes down, right? So then you have increased lift there, and well, that wing goes up while the other goes down, and then you make that turn. Well, that's not the only thing that happens, obviously, because this aileron on this side is going down, it also generates drag, like a flap, right? So the airplane is not only doing this, but it also, because this is going down, it's also going doing this, right? Because there's drag here, like a flap only on one side of the wing. So to counter that adverse yaw movement, you put in right rudder to compensate for that. Now, when is the right aileron, or in this case the left aileron, down? Only when you are turning, because once you are in a turn, you can just leave the yoke central, right, neutral. And then you don't have that drag, and so you don't need the rudder to compensate for that drag. So that's the whole idea, which makes total sense. But I never knew that. So you can just verify yourself. If you make a turn in Flight Sim, and you're in that turn, you're not turning, but you're in that stable turn, you can see that the this slip indicator, how is it called? This thing is actually central, neutral, coordinated. But when you are turning and using your ailerons, then you can see that it's going to wiggle. So you should use the rudder and the yoke simultaneously, harmoniously, and not lead your turns with your ailerons. So first the aileron, and then the rudder, but at the same time. Even small adjustments should be accompanied, small adjustments with the aileron should be accompanied with rudder. So I thought that was quite interesting, and I should practice that, because my coordinated turns are not that coordinated, I guess because of that reason. So that's something that I would like to practice on in my next flights. Well, guys, let's have a quick look back. That completes. Oh, I removed. Yeah, that's not smart of me to do. Whoop! Can I increase it? Like so. A little bit so. Is it okay? Yeah, it's okay. So that completes this ground school page that I added on previous or last week when the weather was still bad in Oceano. My God. So the idea is that tomorrow evening I will stream again, but unfortunately, as we've already seen in the weather charts, the weather will be still IFR on Oceano. So I will think about what I'm going to do. Perhaps there's some other way to overcome it. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow. And is there anything else that I would like to share with you guys? Well, I guess that I will end on that note that I started with. For James, one of the first, among the first followers of my channel, when I just started, this is my 6th episode, already sent me as a gift a book, one of his favorite study materials, Radio Mastery for VFR Pilots, as a gift, as a donation for me to use to improve my flying, improve my channel, and to share with you. So James, thank you so much for that kind gesture. I also would like to thank, let me switch back to the browser, project Flight1 for getting excited by my channel and promoting the uncertified pilot on the website. Also a guest blog here. Check out project Flight1 if you're interested in flight sim news. And for you guys, there's the drone Mooney again. Thank you so much for joining. I'm sorry the bad weather. As I already told you, in bad weather conditions, I'm doing this Hangar talk format. So I'm just reflecting on my previous episodes, things that I've learned, my notes. And when the bad weather improves, we get out of here, because Oceano is not a good place to stay long, because the weather is always bad here, or mostly always bad. So we need to go to some other place where the weather is much better. Also, thank you, Disgraced Pilot, again, for a lot of your comments. Great stuff. I mean, that really improves my own understanding of how to fly, and there's a lot more things that that will cross my mind, and questions and stuff that I need to learn or grasp to become a better flight simulator pilot. But thank you for being here and sharing your knowledge with us. Also, for all the other guys that had comments, thank you. I will go through the chat again to see what kind of notes I can add to my ground school page. And hopefully I will see you soon in my next episode, because I cannot wait to fly. I mean, this is cool, but not for any more than one time per week, because I would like to fly and practice my skills here, landings, crosswind landings. I would like to talk to ADC for the first time. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that experience with you. So thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully I will see you tomorrow at 1830 Zulu. It's in the evening here in the Netherlands, and I will have to see what we're going to do then, because chances are the weather is still bad. If it's marginal VFR, perhaps it's not that marginal VFR, and we can consider making a traffic pattern, or even get out of here. So it might be exciting. So stick around, guys. See you next time. Thank you.
I'm passing through 500, 715. 715, 134.125.